Welcome everyone to the Toku Portal podcast. It's me Zero here with
Right.
yes, and unfortunately that's all we have for members today. For one reason or another, people just couldn't make it. Um, so they're gonna be here tomorrow. Interestingly enough, but because of that, we're probably gonna have a really short Sentai episode. It's not that this episode doesn't deserve it; it does. It's just like I haven't been watching this show. Rye's the only one here, so we can't really talk too much. Plus, like I'm pretty sure like most of the other guys have a lot of things to say about this too. So when they show up tomorrow for the Writer podcast, which is going to be at 6 p.m. Pacific, also just on Wednesday, we'll have a small. I mean, maybe not small, but we'll have a section on this week's Sentai episode. Sorry for the mix up, everyone, but this is kind of the best we can do right now. Anyway, on to the episode. So, episode 46, KyuuRanger. And we start off with a battle, which pretty much gonna be like the major thing this whole episode. Like, most of it is just this fight, this final push against Doran Armage, or supposedly the final push. Um,
Shalampo does give a good line, though. His final order as commander: don't die.
yeah, I thought that was really cool. Um, Yeah. So after Shalampo says that, being a total badass and stuff, I guess that's a little bit of foreshadowing. Whenever you see Shalampo start acting badass, something bad happens to him. Um, but yeah. So we start off with the fight, and it's like weirdly enough, not everybody is fighting, or at least like it seems like Lucky Sergi, Naga, and Stinger are like the vanguard. They're like rushing to fight Don Armage, whereas like the rest of the team is hanging back. Like uh, sh- um, the commander and Kotaro are kind of doing the mech fight things solo. Like I couldn't tell. Like were they like solo piloting the mechs, or were like the other teammates helping them? I couldn't figure that part out.
Later on, we see the others in the mechs, but I'm not sure if they were in there at the start or if they jumped in later.
Yeah, yeah, I saw them for the finisher. Um, but yeah, pretty much show that has like this one cool bit at the beginning, and then he has this one dramatic thing at the end. But like him and Kotaro kind of don't do anything for most of it. Like actually, pretty much most of the cast except for like Lucky and Tsurugi, and then maybe a little bit by like Naga and Stinger. But
Honestly, I might be giving Lucky a bit too much credit for this, but at first it seemed weird to me that, like, he gave Kotaro, the child of all people, control of his main mech, and then I thought, like, well, where would Kotaro be safer? Out in the field or in the mech? I think it was like kind of, because Kotaro is still like the youngest of them all. I think he might have been trying to like kind of protect him in that. Like, that could just be
yeah,
giving him too much credit.
no, no, no. That's what I was thinking too. It's um, like why are you handing your like power up or like super weapon to this kid? But I'm like, realistically, they're fighting like an endless army pretty much. So it's like, yeah, if like any of the team that needs a little bit of backup, it's gonna be the youngest member. So I'm like, okay, Lucky's kind of growing. As you see, like throughout this whole episode, like he seems way more mature than like when I was watching him was way earlier on in the show. So like he seems like a leader now, or at least by the end, definitely. I mean, with that, like, what's your thoughts? I mean, like we did Kotaro, we'll save show for the end. Like most of the other members don't really do much. But
So
what's your thoughts on
in terms of
Lucky?
Lucky's growth, he has definitely become a better character than what we started with. Even though it seems like they tried making him like the really good character at the beginning, back then it felt kind of annoying and undeserved. Uh, we didn't really know him, and he didn't really establish himself very well to be that kind of leadership character. But now that he has, it all fits in. And when he gets sent to that like nightmare world, you see like, hey, even in the face of defeat, when everyone else has given up, he's still gonna push through, and that was really good to see. Even if that whole like nightmare aspect thing really wasn't that great.
Yeah, agreed. It was really well done, especially like a really good character moment. As for like it not being super well done, I'm like they're blowing all the budget. Like there is no budget. There's probably budget maybe left a little bit over for the final couple episodes, but like we don't have time for like a special like sideways dimension thing. So I was kind of okay with letting that slide, but otherwise like at least the the I mean like the B cast I guess kind of got to at least be in this episode for that section I guess. Um, Weirdly enough, with like the way like Lucky and Tsurugi are dressed and like with all the feathers and everything, I'm like, when the fuck did this turn into Garo? Like it's got like Garo's aesthetics pretty much. It was pretty funny. Um, I mean, like it was cool and all, and then he like took off his jacket at the end. I was like, oh, that sucks. But otherwise, it was cool. It was good. Right. So I guess we should probably move on to the second major character, or I guess the main character of this thing,
Tsurugi.
which is like Tsurugi. Yeah. And so like I haven't like when I was watching the show, Tsurugi wasn't there, so I'm like, all right. I've seen like a couple things with this guy, actually maybe like one or two episodes, and like uh he seems interesting. Like it's probably because like at this point he's like almost dying and shit. So like he on purpose at this point has to have more character than he's been having.
So
But like he seemed like a decent enough dude.
you missed his introduction phase where, okay, so Cuervo was his old partner that died, and they go into this episode about how he felt bad about that and how he valued Cuervo as a friend, right? Um,
Yeah.
when he's first introduced, he treats the other KyuuRangers like tools. Literally, like he tells Lucky, like, if you want to be useful, then be my shield. Um, and he comes off as standoffish and so insensitive. And then we later, when we find out about Cuervo, we realize like, oh, he was acting that way to intentionally push them away from him. He didn't. He was afraid to get close to people again.
Oh, that's pretty cool actually. I mean that just continues to add to the to the Garo feel of it, but
Yeah.
yeah, I know, right? Like this is like literally they're running around wearing clothes that make them look like Makai Knights. I mean not the armors, the like standard protective cloth, like the magic imbued like magic shield cloths. And then they're running around with like giant swords. I'm like, oh god, this is like this is so Garo for some reason, but it was well done. Uh, yeah, I mean, I guess like we should probably do Cuervo and maybe Don Armage.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. And like, I have no idea. Like, I know he's the villain, but like outside of that, I have no idea. So I don't know how well this episode, made
So
his character.
early on, we established that Darnar Mage is the faceless leader of Dark Matter, um, and we don't even see what he looks like. And then later on, when the KyuuRangers travel back in time, to the point where Tsurugi has supposedly defeated him in the past, when they want to find out like what happened, uh, Darnamage is still alive after that battle, and they defeat him in the past. And then they return to the present, and he's still alive. And we find out later that he's this weird, like, parasite thing that latches onto people. So he can produce multiple bodies. So we then later find out, like, in that original final battle, when Cuervo died protecting Tsurugi, Tsurugi defeats the real Darnar Mage, but his parasitic power still exists, his like consciousness, and so it latches on to Cuervo's corpse in desperation, and he's revived as Cuervo. The two like join together.
Huh. That's. I mean, like I kind of got that watching it, so they did a good enough job with that. But interesting bad guy. Like the funny thing is, like describing it like that, it went from like, oh right, that guy who looks like Palpatine from Star Wars to nobody knows who he is, but he's this leader dude, and he's still alive. But we have to figure out his identity by going back. I'm like, so it's like part 5 JoJo, and then like it went to like Stargate with the oh, it's like a parasitic life form. I'm like, okay, we're crossing all the streams now.
Darnar Mage's
It's going-
identity was super not in question for like the entire first half of the series, and then we get to this point where he's a different thing like every few episodes.
okay, I guess that might be in a like kind of reference to like the space sheriffs and like the bad guys they fight, where it's like, there's somebody at top, but like you never know who to, or maybe it's kind of like I don't know. I don't know enough about them, but I know like that's kind of how their like villains are set up, or at least like the first three, like the space sheriffs and stuff. Um, but it could also be just like generic bad guy, because like this is basically how great leader does this thing. Is like he never dies. Why? Because have you killed him? Who knows? He just keeps coming back. That asshole. Um, yeah. Uh, hmm. I guess that's pretty much the main points. Like show, I think probably has the most important part after those three. Where he kind of like, he starts out with like that great thing of like everybody make sure you live and see the peaceful galaxy, we fought for and stuff. I'm like, oh, it's so cool. And then like he's the commander who's like fighting, with his mech and stuff on the front lines. Like I wish. Okay, here's one of those weird things where it's like I'm usually not into like Sentai mech fights and shit, but I'm like for one time where you should see like a good mech fight, it's like them where they're desperately struggling to like stay alive, but I'm like we have no time or budget. That might be it.
Oh, well, they might do something like in the next two episodes, and that's what
I
they're
know,
saving
but
the
like
budget for.
yeah, I know, but for like shows like supposal final episode, like that would have meant a lot more if he had like he showed how desperately he fought to give them a chance and stuff, and then like at the end he ends up sacrificing himself to save them. I mean, like that's one of those things where it's like Tsurugi is like, just kill me now, because like yeah, he knows that like Don Armag is gonna go for the next body. So, like Lucky's like, fuck that. That's not the way I do shit. And like shows like, yeah, that's the right decision. Then he sacrifices himself. I'm like, oh, it's like a little bit of bittersweetness there. What did you think of all that?
This episode took a seriously dark turn. Like, I had the biggest grin on my face during, like, the fight against Darnar Mage. It's like, oh man, this is great. And then I just, like, dropped. Like, oh my god. Oh my god! I was pretty surprised when Darnar Mage was finally separated from Cuervo. Cuervo was still, like, mad. Like, I thought it was gonna be the stereotypical like, oh, you separated the evil, so he goes back to normal. It's like, no, this guy is fucking insane, and that's why he's been doing this all these years.
Yeah, it had like a lot of good moments like that. I mean, weirdly enough, like yeah, I can't really tell how impactful it is because I haven't really watched the show, but yeah, that was a good moment. I also remember, like, weirdly enough, yeah, as you said, like, I didn't see Show's thing coming because I'm like, oh, they're not gonna kill the commander. Like, look at this badass fight. We're even getting in, like, random, like, POV freaking camera angles, like, shit you see in, like, the first couple episodes of a writer show. Or I guess in Sentai, it's like the last couple episodes. You see random camera shots, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then that moment happened, and I'm like, holy shit. I mean, I think they're probably gonna save Tsurugi and show. Like, here's the thing: if it was just Tsurugi taking over, like, I'm like, oh, okay, we might have to kill him. But like Sugi and Sho, I'm like, all right, we're not gonna kill two characters at
Right.
once. Like it gave Lucky this cool moment of like you finally realize that like Lucky's grown enough to become the leader of this team, and I was like, okay, I could see this guy lead this team now, but they just double down with two characters. I still can't buy it. I mean, it was a good moment. It's just like I couldn't fully buy that. They're both gonna be gone.
There was also Don Armage straight up saying, like, I'm going to absorb the Polynesium to restore the immortality power. It's like, okay, so Tsurugi's going to live then, right?
Yeah, pretty much. That's what I was thinking too. But like, it's one of those other things. Like, here's the thing: if this was Garo, like Tsurugi would be fucking dead. Um, because it would have been like, yeah, we tried to do this the good guy way, it didn't work. Like my era and Don Armaga's era is over. Lucky and you guys, like this is your era now. It's your job to, like fix the galaxy, like because we're like old farts from like forever ago who've been fucking up the galaxy. Like our era ends now, and that's where like Tsurugi would be dead. This would be over, right? If this was Garo, because like Garo's thing is like nobody gets a fucking happy ending apparently, unless you're like the main guy. But even then, like it
Uh,
depends which continuity and which movie. So like, yeah, it's weird.
in KyuuRanger 2, their commander, their basically their version of Sholampo, he just straight up dies in the final arc, and he actually dies.
Wow. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like maybe it's just because like the demographic is younger now, because it's like I don't know. I guess they just can't risk hitting higher demographics because like so fewer kids and shit like that. Um, but the thing is like nobody stays dead in Tokusatsu, or at least in Toei stuff anymore. So it does kind of take the edge a little bit off. But I'm like,
What few Sentai members die do actually die. Like,
yeah, I know. But like lately, that hasn't been the case, has it?
um, yeah, no, KyuuRanger was the last one to have a character permadead. And even then, they like his spirit will still be around to try and like alleviate the situation.
Okay, so it's basically the thing that KyuuRanger already did with like like they already have spirits and stuff. And the other thing is like KyuuRanger is the one with the dinosaurs, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. All right. So the guy who wrote Double wrote that. So I'm like, oh, of course he's gonna take a serious tone. But I'm like, of course it's the guy who wrote Double. Like nobody can really die. Oh
like
well.
he's dead, but then like in Tokyuja versus KyuuRanger, you see his spirit in one scene, like helping out the Tokyuja's commander.
That's cool. He's like a force ghost now.
Pretty much.
uh, um. Yeah, I think that covers like the major points. I mean, there was one other thing when like Lucky kind of did like, oh, Stinger and Naga, like you don't need your weapons. I can just fucking do the Fates tonight, like Gilgamesh. I'm gonna summon all the weapons now thing. and Naga's like, oh, you're pretty good without, not with just that spear. And Stinger's like, yeah, we just trained with like all weapons. I'm like, all right, that's pretty funny. Um,
Yeah.
but I think actually like oh shit. Like in that Stinger movie, I think you do see them with like when it cuts to their tribe, you do see them have like all different weapons. So I'm
Probably.
like, yeah, that was a good piece of continuity, I suppose. Also, I have one question. Everybody has kind of like a powered up form or something. Like, what the fuck is with Naga? Like last time I saw he was
Oh,
silver. Why does he have the purple thing?
okay.
He looks cool.
So there was an arc where Don Armage brought in like his three vice shoguns to deal with the KyuuRangers, and one of them tempted Naga by unlocking his emotions and converted him to their side, and she gave him a dark Kyutama, which was stronger. And then they go through like the whole arc, and like Balance convinces Naga that that's not the real him, and he still keeps the like power up afterwards.
That's cool. At least it has a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Plus, whenever more teammates get power ups, that's always cool.
Uh,
Um,
there's an episode a few episodes ago where they own the fight is between only the members that have a power up, and so they're all using a different one, and they have a unique roll call for it. It was pretty good.
that's cool. I always love when they take the time to do fancy stuff like that. But the other flip side is like, what happens to all the guys who don't get a power? Right? They get to stay on the ship. They're not important anymore. Power creep hit them too hard. I mean, that's not true. It's a Sentai team, so there's always uses for other team members, which is cool. Unlike Rider, where it's like, you best have the newest shit, or you're gonna get wrecked. Or unless you pull out something that's even more Deus Ex Machina than like everything on the field right now.
Some of the power ups were ones that previously only Lucky had used, but for this fight, some of the other guys got to use it.
Ah, that's nice. That's always nice. Yeah, I think we're like way off topic now. Final thoughts, I guess, because there's not much else to say about anybody else.
This was a really good episode and deserves a more thorough discussion. Unfortunately, it's just the two of us, which is why hopefully Decade and King and maybe Vashi will be available tomorrow to do a follow up because there's definitely a lot to discuss about this. This was a really good episode.
Yeah, agreed. Really solid episode. This show, had its pitfalls at the beginning, but it seems it's shaped out really well. And it looks like, it's gonna get really heavy next episode also. So that's good. It's always good to ramp up
Next
to the
episode
ending
is
of a
the
show.
penultimate episode, I believe.
Maybe, yeah, because the next Sentai comes out on
The
the
third,
11th of February.
right. So yeah, next episode is the first half of the two-part finale.
Nice. I mean, I guess it might be sad to see the show go if, you've been following it around. For me, like, I haven't been super following this, but it's good to see these characters have really grown, you know?
For Vashi, because so many characters have been getting gypped on character development throughout the series, the show is finally getting to a point for him where it feels like the show is finally starting. And he feels like there should still be like 3 more months.
Yeah, I hate it when that happens, when you're like, like, again, I'm feeling good on it because, like, I didn't see where these characters didn't get what they deserved.
Oh, Garo got
um,
super shafted. Like, he's. I know I've complained about this a lot before, but
oh, you mean Garu, the blue
Blue
one? The
Ukami
wolf
Blue,
guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
His entire character has been nothing but a joke character. Uh, his only serious moments have just been piggybacking off of other people being serious. Spada, Yellow, has gotten less screen time and has been a better character for it. Because he wasn't relegated to just a joke character.
Yeah, that sucks. I mean, the worst part is like you could really like here's the thing. His backstory is so like typical tokusatsu hero. Like you could pull like easily like 5 to 10 characters that you could write a story arc similar to theirs. Like I can think of some and I'm not that much of a
Unfortunately,
center.
he
Yeah.
didn't get a story arc. He got nothing. They gave him a tragic backstory and then pushed it aside.
That sucks. You know what the worst part is? Now I have to hope that Saban does a better job,
I
you know?
I I have to agree. Like, I hope that they make use of their characters a bit better. It's a lot. It's a large cast, so it's hard to like make balance the character development with the plot focusing around certain characters each arc. But like, it just fell
I mean,
through for this group.
Yeah, I mean, like maybe just cutting the jokes at this character's expense might help him out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess we've rambled long enough. Yeah, catch us next time, tomorrow at 6 p.m. for Kamen Rider Build episode 19. And we'll see you all next time.
Bye bye.